Hey, welcome to this podcast where the truth is released to inspire you to find your voice, bring out the gold within you, and help you reach your full potential to roar out loud in the world around you. I'm your host, Mary Shree, and I'm here to take you on a weekly journey of hope, inspiration, and empowerment. This podcast is where we believe in turning up the volume on life's practical tips, impart insightful wisdom, as well as share life stories of triumph, resilience, and passion. In each episode, we'll be diving deep into relevant topics in today's world, as well as into the incredible lives and stories of extraordinary everyday individuals like you and me who have been set free from the fears, lies, and have overcome great adversity and found their voice to release their roar. So whether you're tuning in during your morning drive, working out at the gym, getting ready for school, or cozying up with that good cup of coffee, get ready to amplify your life and ignite your courage. This is Roar Out Loud. Hey, welcome back to this podcast. I'm super excited that you're here with us today. Today we're going to be talking about the season of singleness. And I know singleness sometimes can feel like, this is a crazy topic because maybe in your heart you're just feeling challenged in that area. However, today I'm here and we're going to be talking into this subject, but from a place of just really being able to hone in on this. And by the end of this podcast, I believe you're going to be feeling at peace and you're going to be able to come into a place of embracing your singleness in a new way. So let me ask you, are you single? Maybe you're single, but you're not loving the season of singleness that you're in. Maybe you've never been married and you're in this place of like, I really want to get married, because maybe, the reality is sometimes especially if you're older and single, your sex drive can be off the charts and you're like, I just want to get married. Maybe you're single and your spouse has passed away and you found yourself in this season of just mourning and you're like, how did I get here again? I'm single again. That's real too. And if you're in that place, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry that you're dealing with that. Maybe you just walked through a divorce and you're like, I never thought I would be in this place of singleness again. And if you're in that place and you're in that season, I am sorry you're walking through that. I know from experience that singleness feels hard at times, and that singleness it really can just hurt. It feels painful. When I was young and I was single, I had this plan, and you're probably going to laugh when I say this, but I did. I had a plan. I had my life figured out. I literally had a plan, and I had this escape route, so to speak, out of my singleness. I was going to be married by the time I was 21. That was my plan. Be married by the time I'm 21. Have my first baby by the time I was 25. And then be a full-time missionary together with my husband and my family in the mission field somewhere by the time I was 27. That was my escape route out of singleness. Are you laughing yet? Because I know I laugh about this when I say this. So the reality is none of that came to fruition. None of it came to pass until I hit 27 and I made it to the mission field. However, I was single. I made it to the mission field single. I had no children and I was single. And that felt hard. There were seasons though where I didn't really mind singleness at first. But when my closest friends started getting married one by one and my budget for bridesmaids dresses began to increase year after year from all the weddings I was in, my singleness status literally began to scream at me in the face. Mary, what's going on? What's wrong with you? Why are you not getting married yet? I can still remember standing as a bridesmaid in many of the weddings that I was in. I was so happy for my friends, but yet there was this real place in my heart where I felt sad. I felt sad that it wasn't me. And every single time I would stand up in these weddings, I found myself mourning this place of, man, it's not me. What's going on? And why am I not married yet? And everything inside of me, I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a husband. I wanted to have children. I wanted to get on with my life. And here I was getting older and older year after year. experiencing these feelings. I think altogether I was in something like 17 different weddings. I'd have to make a list and count it out, but it was a lot. I had a lot of friends and it was fun being in these weddings. But again, that place of singleness would just hit me in the face every time I stood up in a wedding. It hurt and it felt painful. And I would cry out to God asking, when will it be my turn? How often am I going to have to do this? When will it be my turn? And you know what? You know what would happen? I would hear nothing. Crickets. I felt like he wasn't answering me. And I was like, what is going on? And sometimes I'd feel mad at him. I'd feel mad at God. You know, in my singleness, I had dated a plethora of guys, plenty of good guys I dated. And I even got engaged to one of them, but it was just never the right one. And I often had people who would come up to me, and even times when I'd come off the mission field, I'd come home and I'd have different speaking engagements at churches and would see my friends. I would have people come up to me and they would pointedly ask me if I was seeing anyone, and if I wasn't, why? Why are you not seeing somebody? Because I was so eligible and I seemed to have everything going for me, but yet here I was, even a missionary all the way in Africa. And I knew my heart was there, and it was hard. It felt hard. It felt hard. These conversations, they were often just uncomfortable and also made me wonder sometimes, man, is something wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? Why can't I hook a guy? Hey, my fishing pole is out and I'm reeling. I felt like I was reeling in at times, but no, there was nothing. What was going on? And, I even, at times I would fast and I would pray and I'm like, God, when are you going to bring me my husband? When are you going to bring him to me? Where is he? I often felt sorry for myself because I just wasn't married yet. And in my singleness, I was never the type of girl to just throw myself at a guy. Sometimes, I would flirt a little and, let little clues out here and there if I liked somebody, but I never just threw myself at somebody. I was always very old fashioned, and in a way, I wanted my heart to be pursued. And you know what? Rightfully so, because the reality is God created us to be pursued as single people, God, even as married people. God created our hearts to be pursued because the bridegroom king is always in pursuit of us. And that's the way we're wired, to be pursued. However, when my heart wasn't being pursued, I had thoughts that maybe there was the possibility that, well, this is my lot in life. Because I chose to be a missionary, this is my lot in life. Maybe I'm just going to be single for the rest of my life. And, deep down inside, I didn't fully believe that because I had this deep, deep desire to be married. However, those thoughts at times, I would have to battle through them. Maybe I am just going to be single for the rest of my life. Just that thought alone made the feelings of loneliness real in my life. In the Bible, both singleness and marriage are good. However, throughout scripture, it shows us that marriage is, let's just say, complicated at times. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. And there's highs and there's lows. There's mountaintops and there's valleys. And it's complicated at times because, you're caring for another person. You're not just on your own. You're having to care for their heart as well. And it does feel complicated at times. It's wonderful and beautiful, but there's complications, sometimes more than being single. I can say as a married woman of 17 years, marriage, it is wonderful, but being single gives you more opportunities. In my personal opinion, being single gives you more opportunities than marriage does. And well, vice versa too. Being single, you're on your own. You're not having to answer to anybody at all. You get to, hey, the world is wide open. Hey, if I want to go to France next week, I'm going to France. If I want to go to England, I'm flying there. If I want to do this, I'm going to do this. And you make your decisions on your own. And I would decide, hey, when am I coming home from Africa? What am I going to be doing? I want to hang out with friends super late. I'm going to do it. I didn't have to run it by anybody. I was single. I was on my own. So in a way, it did have its own perks. But it was also in this place, yeah, it was lonely as well at times. And when you are feeling lonely or unhappy in your singleness, it's easy to see it as a burden. Yet, as a single person, you can embrace the freedom, like I said, of making your own daily choices, your own decisions of what you're going to do in life on a daily basis. And you don't have to run it by anyone. I always tell single people, don't wait for your husband or your wife to come along, because that was my story. Yes, I was single. Yes, I walked through loneliness at different seasons in my singleness, but I didn't wait. I still chose to go. I still chose to spread my wings and fly. And I went to Africa because I knew that was the call in my life to do missions. And my heart desired it. And I wanted that. And I believed God was calling me to that. And He was. So I didn't wait. And that's why I always tell people, don't wait for your husband or wife to come along. Just spread your wings and fly. Do what's in your heart. Do what you feel you're called to do and live your life to the fullest. And I believe somewhere along the journey, your mate, your spouse is going to join you. They will fit right in the season that you're in. You're not missing out in where you're at. And I know as a single person that may feel like, yeah, that's not true. I am missing out. The reality is the only thing you're missing out, if you're a Christian and you're saving yourself for marriage, the reality is the only thing you're missing out on is sex. As a single person, let's get real. Like, you're missing out on sex, and you're missing out on just having that deep relationship, that deep connection where you get to lay in bed at night and just talk with each other or feel their arms around you, holding you. And those are the things you're missing out on as a single person. However, that deep desire of having that connection literally comes from a place of needing that connection, that depth with the Lord. So as a single missionary living on the mission field, my life, it was adventurous, and I knew I was called, like I said, to Africa and the nations. And my reality, though, was I really couldn't see how I would ever find a husband that was willing to be with me in the nations, that was called to Africa, that had a heart to Africa as well. And that's why sometimes those thoughts of like, well, maybe the singleness is going to be my lot in life. I refused, though, to swear to celibacy because my heart really longed to be married, like I said. And the older I got, I have hormones. We all have hormones when we're in our singleness in our 20s into our 30s. Some of you find yourself in your 40s. We all have hormones that scream at us, get me a husband or get me a wife. You desperately want to be at that place. And my heart, yes, really longed to be married, but sometimes it felt so far off. I had many days where loneliness was a real thing. And with the deep desire for marriage and for family, the thought of that singleness, but desiring to be married felt unfair. It really felt unfair, like the carrot before the cart, so to speak. God doesn't lead us astray or dangle a carrot in front of our face that feels impossible to really reach. However, sometimes things and circumstances in our lives may feel like that. For me, marriage was one of those things. I trusted God. I totally trusted Him in most areas of my life. How many of you can say that? I totally trust God. But if you really stop and you really examine your heart, you're trusting Him in most areas of your life, maybe, but not all areas. I didn't trust Him in all areas. Sometimes our lack of trust and our fears, I believe they keep us in this prison of loneliness and can hold us back from coming out of singleness at times because we close the door on it by not leaning in and choosing to grow where growth is desperately needed. I know in my own life, there were places where I needed to grow. And in my singleness, I mean, looking back now, here I am 48 years old, and looking back to that season of my life, throughout my entire 20s, I didn't get married until I was 30. So throughout my entire 20s, I can see places, big places sometimes, where I needed to grow. And I'm so thankful God did not allow me to be married then, because I would have brought so much of that into my marriage. And when we bring our junk, when we bring our crap into our marriage, we literally are creating a place of friction, and not whole. It doesn't bring wholeness into marriage. You have to fight for marriage. You've got to fight to stay connected. And when you're healthy and whole, there's still a fight to stay connected in different seasons in marriage. However, imagine bringing all the junk with you into marriage and how much more and greater the fight would be. So I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful looking back now that God did not allow me to get married then when I was 21, when I thought, no, I've got it all together. No, I can be married when I'm 21. I'm so thankful God did not allow me to have that, because it wouldn't have been, I don't think it would have been successful. You will never be truly, truly, truly fulfilled in marriage until you learn to be in that place of true submission to God first in your heart. And if you can't find happiness in singleness first, I believe it's because there are those places, like I talked about, that need healing in your heart. Singleness is not the culprit to loneliness. I don't believe that. I'm going to say that again. Singleness is not the culprit to loneliness. And marriage is not your fix for singleness. Some of you need to hear that. Some of you single people out there need to hear that. Singleness is not the culprit to loneliness, and marriage is not your fix-it for that place. Your lack of connection in some areas of your heart with the one who created you, your greatest creator, God, who created you, your lack of connection with him, I believe, is the culprit to loneliness. And maybe you are connected, but is all of your heart connected? I was connected to God in my singleness, very much so. And I was serving him in the nations, but not all of my heart was connected. When God fills every area of your heart, it doesn't mean that you won't have bouts of sadness, that you're not married, but it does mean that he can come in and comfort you and strengthen you where you're at. And you can find joy in the journey with him when you choose to lean into those places and allow him in to those broken areas of your heart and begin to feel them, begin to heal them, and begin to feel them. So the biggest key in singleness that I could give you, here I am, 48 years old and 17 years of marriage, and looking back on my singleness, the biggest key I could give you is grow your relationship with God. Allow him into every area of your heart and choose vulnerability. Choose to lean in and be vulnerable and be raw and be real with him, and allow him into those places of hurt and pain. Psalm 63:1 says, "Oh God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water." Your season of singleness is the perfect time to really dig deep when you feel dry, when you feel lonely. Dig deep and grow your relationship with God. He alone can only fulfill the deepest places of loneliness in our hearts. If your season of singleness feels dry, God will give you that living water to drink. And sometimes he gives it through other people that can help guide you through your singleness, that can help begin to also heal your heart, walk you through healing, and really bring you to a place where you no longer feel dry and cracked and lonely and washed up. You can really begin to thrive. John 4:14 says, "But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst." And that is a promise. And it goes on to say, "Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." Whoever drinks the water I give them. That whoever is you. Will you drink the water? Will you choose to take a drink and allow him to fill those dry places? You will never thirst again. That's his promise to you. Even in your singleness, when you allow him into those places, you will never thirst again. And the water that he gives you will become a spring of living water. And I believe that in my own life, as I began to give those areas to him, and here I was in the mission field, he literally became a spring of living water. And it was out of that place that I was able to give to other people. It was out of that place that I was able to minister, that I was able to teach in the Bible colleges over there, that I was able to speak at different women's conferences, that I was able to help in certain orphanages that I served in. It was out of that place that I was able to love on people, even though at times I felt like, oh, Jesus, when am I going to be married? I gave it to him, and he gave me his living water. And out of that, he grew those springs of living water in me, deep in me. Jesus is our living water. In him, we have no thirst. When you feel dry in your singleness, he will come. He will quench those places, and he will be your everything. He will be your greatest lover. And when you find him in those places, that's where you begin to get whole in every area. And I believe when you are in that place of wholeness, your spouse is going to come along. He will come along and you will be fulfilled, and you're going to have a great marriage. I believe that. I'm going to speak that out. You'll have a great marriage. I think about my husband and I. Many times people have said, your first year of marriage is going to be so hard. It's going to be so hard, because you're getting to know each other, and then things come up and all that. We didn't have that. Our first year of marriage was wonderful. And I believe it's because we took care of the junk in our singleness. We allowed God into those places of our heart. We subjected ourselves to healing. We allowed people to speak into us. We subjected ourselves to healing, for God coming in and healing our hearts. And he made us whole. And so today, Jesus, I just pray for all the single people that are out there listening to this right now, that will hear this even, several months from now, or even just tomorrow or the next day or whenever they're listening, God, the single people that are listening to this, that they will hear this and they will take these nuggets of gold and begin to really pursue your heart. And Father, that you will make yourself so near to them, and that your peace will come and comfort those areas of loneliness and sadness, and that they will begin to feel fulfilled in you, that they would begin to feel fulfilled in you. And we just bless them. I bless you in your singleness. I bless you in your relationship with Father God, because he alone can fulfill you. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this podcast, hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends and family. Always remember, your voice matters. Your dreams are worth pursuing. And you, my friend, have the power to roar out loud.